We all have a responsibility to help youth who are residing in out-of-home placements successfully transition to adulthood. There are many things that youth need to create a foundation for adulthood. One of the foundations that youth need is housing. If youth do not have stable housing, it will likely affect their ability to be successful in many other areas of their life, such as keeping a job or going to school. Without housing, a youth's foundation will be weak and not in balance. Youth need stability in each area in order to keep all the other areas stable. We know from research that youth who transition out of foster care have a higher chance of being homeless. Currently, 1 out of every 4 youth who age out of care in Iowa will experience homelessness. Moving outside of the support of foster care sounds exciting, but it is also very stressful. Preparing youth for this transition ahead of time and talking about the options with the youth and their team of supports may help reduce some of the stress. For youth who have not completed high school and are in paid foster care when they turn 18, are eligible to stay in foster care in order to complete high school up to the age of 20. If they have already received their diploma or high school equivalent, they will need other housing arrangements at the age of 18. Youth need a lot of assistance and support to help them prepare for this major transition. Some youth choose not to remain in foster care despite not having their diploma. However, if things do not work out as they have planned, or they find it to be harder than they thought, youth can request to return to foster care to work on completing high school. This would likely be in supervised apartment living or a foster family home if available, and would depend on the situation. Think back to when you were around 18 years old and just finishing school, and at some point you decided to move out on your own. How did you plan for that move? What did you have to plan for? Who was there to help you? Do the youth we work with have these same supports? Often the answer is no. This is why you play such a vital part in preparing and assisting youth in this process. This is indeed a process. It is not something that can be done at one time. The earlier, the better to help youth prepare. There are so many things going on at this age and decisions to be made. So overwhelming. They are constantly getting things thrown at them. For some of these youth, the foster care system has been their stability, and this can be a very scary time. So what are some of the things you can do to assist youth? First, educate and teach. No matter what age the youth you are working with, there is a starting point. Consider where they are at in their developmental level. Are there basic skills they still need to learn? Have them complete their Casey Life Skills Assessment and evaluate what areas they need to work on. What do some of these skills look like? Help them determine what their housing needs are. What does this look like? Living with a family or living on their own? What would be a better situation for them? Discuss what different types of housing options youth may have. Where do they want to live? What will they be able to afford? As you help the youth visualize where they want to live in the future, help them figure out, is their goal realistic? Does it match their budget? What can a minimum wage job really get you? They likely won't be starting off in a 3-bedroom house, attached garage, with the white picket fence. Once the youth has a goal of where they would like to be, then work backwards to what it would take to reach their goal. Starting points aren't always pretty. They may have to give up some of the things they want. Look at the things they need to reach their goal. Which of those things can be done now? Help them make a connection with how the activities they are working on now leads to what they want in the future. The second thing is practice. Despite what type of placement they are currently in, find a way for the youth to practice those skills. Reference the housing section in the tip book to find activities that can be done with the youth, such as filling out a rental application, a roommate agreement, or going over how to maintain housing. Practice cleaning and household maintenance, going to look at apartments. Practice making phone calls to landlords or mock rental interviews. Find housing programs that may be able to assist, like Section 8 or the Housing Authority. Give them opportunities. When it comes down to it, and it's time to line the housing up, help provide them the opportunities to turn their housing applications in and finding resources for fees if needed. Making the calls to find what is available. Touring the housing setting they will be moving to. Working with the team on making any needed referrals and applying for the housing programs they might be eligible for. Some youth will qualify for housing programs for people with disabilities and/or supportive community living through habilitative services. There may be housing they are specifically eligible for. If the youth is returning to a family setting, whether it be parents or relatives or friends, Have they had visits and opportunities to stay there for extended periods to make for a smoother transition? Talk to the relatives or people they will be living with to make sure they are on board with the plan and have them part of the planning team. What will living in that home look like? Consider developing a contract for what will be the youth's responsibilities in that home. Also plan for what could go wrong. As you can see, there are so many things that youth need to know and plan for. So if you aren't able to do this with the youth, who will? Somehow, these things all need to be done to help the youth prepare and to help them be successful. You wouldn't send a person out to rock climb up a mountain without the right training and equipment. The same is for these youth, and for them to be successful in their journey to adulthood, they also need to be fully equipped and trained. They also need support both now and ongoing to help them reach their housing goals. Wouldn't it be great if all the youth we worked with were super engaged and realized how important all the planning and preparation was? But we know that is not always the case. Even if you have a youth that is resistant, please do not give up. It is still important. They need to hear this information repeatedly and work on learning what they need, even if they don't seem interested. In what ways can you help the youth understand the importance and the significant consequences for not getting themselves prepared? This youth did not.
I'm Mitch, I'm 19 years old. I entered the foster care system when I was, 8. Transition planning matters to me in a very weird way, because in the beginning I wasn't really much focused on it. I was kind of a butt about it, and nothing seemed real up until the moment where I actually had to do stuff. When I didn't really put any effort in, I actually ended up aging out from foundation to a youth shelter and going directly from there into Willis Stady homeless shelter. It was a pretty massive wake-up call. Yeah, that was not very fun. The vast majority of the time when I was in foster care, I had somebody else structuring my life for me. It's really easy to fall into this pattern of just living, not really doing much of anything, just going through the motions. It's easy to just move along day by day. It's easier to move along day by day and just not think about it, because thinking about it can get a little too real. Thinking about where you might end up or how much effort it's going to take can be more than a little frightening. You have somebody telling you how to do something and when to do something all the time, then you end up looking towards somebody to push you. And then when those people aren't there anymore, you're just like, oh, what do I do?
This youth regretted that he hadn't been more engaged in the process, despite repeated attempts from his providers and case manager to encourage him. However, when the time came that he was ready to move forward, he did know the resources available to him. This is not going to be a one-and-done conversation. We know teens need multiple opportunities to practice skills and hear messages several times. And they learn better if we can make it real and personal to them. The youth need a team around them supporting them in this endeavor. Thank you for working with our youth in foster care and taking the time to make a difference for each one of them. The transition planning specialist in your service area can be a resource for you if or when you need it, especially with those youth who will have a more difficult transition or have higher needs. Feel free to invite the TPS to be a part of the team planning. We all need to work together to help these youth transition and build a stable foundation for adulthood.